Today's show marks the launch of our new series, Sing for Science Microscopes. Tune in to check out upcoming episodes with Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse on beekeeping and much more. This is Sing for Science Microscopes. Each episode in this series features a guest artist exploring a topic of personal importance and how it connects to science. Today I'm pleased to welcome acclaimed singer-songwriter Madison McFerrin, an artist known for her bold blend of soul, jazz, and a cappella music. The daughter of legendary vocalist Bobby McFerrin, Madison carries forward his legacy of vocal mastery with a voice and style that are unmistakably her own. Madison is joining Sing for Science today to talk with us about her love of baking. Together we'll look at what makes baking a science while cooking is so often described by contrast as an art. Hello, Madison. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's a lovely intro.
I do what I can. So you have kindly accepted the challenge of baking chocolate chip cookies while we chat, and in the middle of a Los Angeles summer, no less.
Yes, it is hot.
Is that something you normally do, or is that a generous concession for our listeners?
No, I bake all year round.
You do?
So it's not,
okay.
Yeah, it's not a summer exclusionary situation. So
Okay, copy.
I usually don't bake at 10 a.m. I will say that, unless it's like pancakes or biscuits.
Pancakes get categorized as baking?
I think about it in the sense of like, it doesn't go in the oven, but it is a sweet treat.
It's a sweet treat that rises.
Yeah.
This was a skill passed down from your mom, as I understand it?
Yeah, I grew up in a household with a lot of cooks. The matriarchs of my family are all really incredible cooks, my mother included. So cooking in general, I love to cook, period. But I was definitely raised with women who like to eat good food and know how to make it well. And so I just grew up in that environment.
Did you grow up in LA?
No, I did not. I grew up all over the place.
Okay.
But my dad actually grew up in LA, so I do feel some roots here.
Okay. Is he a baker?
No, absolutely not. No, in no way, shape, or form. The only thing that I knew my dad to make growing up was pancakes, but then we found out later in life that he didn't actually make the pancakes, he just flipped them. It was a shock to the McFerrin children.
Oh, Bobby McFerrin.
But when you have a cook like Debbie McFerrin as your wife, you really don't need to dabble.
Okay, well, I can edit out that scandal if you like.
Oh, no, it's fine.
The obvious lineage from your dad is in your ear and voice. So I would like to play, if it's okay with you, a snippet from the very beginning of your Tiny Desk concert.
Let's go for it.
Because to me, that really demonstrates, I think, just the way that you can stack harmony and your ear for that. And obviously I see here the connection to what your dad can do with his voice.
Do 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 do
So that's all you with a looping pedal.
Correct.
And can you describe how your ear leads you to stack harmony in the way that you do?
So I originally wrote No Time to Lose on the piano. This is in 2016. But really, as soon as I wrote it, I had just gotten my loop pedal and had just started doing shows or like writing music with it, or performing with it rather. And as soon as I wrote it, I remember I wanted to transpose it to vocal layers. And so that in itself, when I do that, it's just like, oh, I need to find the right way to stack this, which is usually from bottom to top, in terms of how I'm figuring out my voices. So I literally sit at the piano, play the chord, and like follow which line is the bottom line. So I have to make sure to stack that one first. And then I move on to the next one, which involves, okay, I have to think about the interval between the last note of the previous stack and the first note of the next stack.
Right.
Which is where that really, I think the ear training really comes into play, because that's the most difficult part, which is also why I say sometimes it's not starting at the bottom. Sometimes I'm starting in the middle and moving around, just because internally it is easier for my ear to get the interval between one line versus the other.
Okay. Well, I have to confess that was somewhat of a leading question, because when I see you do that, I think about my own relationship to making music and how it's so often each ingredient is added to taste, in essence.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Lovely metaphor.
Yeah, it's not going to be the first time. Is cooking and music, does that exist in metaphor for you often? Like,
Oh, totally. I mean, I think about it, especially when the pandemic first started and we were really inside all the time. Performing is my absolute favorite thing to do, and singing and being with people. And since I couldn't do that, I had to get out creative energy elsewhere, which is how I started producing. Like, I just needed to get out that creative energy. But the other thing I did a lot more of was cook, which I already did all the time. Like, that wasn't anything new, but they itch similar parts of my brain in terms of, one, being able to share love. Cooking is very much how I share love with the people around me. It's very analogous to Like Water for Chocolate, that incredible Mexican book and movie. But I really do feel like it's another way that I can share love with people, because that's how I grew up, is cooking was a way that we shared love with people. But I think especially not as much baking, because you don't have as much wiggle room with baking, but especially cooking, there's like a level of improv that happens, where it's like you really can just put your own style, your own flavor, literally, into what you're making. And so for me, those two things are very analogous. Cooking is my second biggest passion to music. And if I wasn't doing music, I would be doing something with food.
And you can adjust as in with cooking in general. And I myself am a serviceable cook. I am no chef, but I've often been scared off from baking because it requires a level of precision. I think it does anyway, but I can't adjust as I go along,
Well, see, that's interesting, because that is true. Like, there are certain elements of baking where it's like there is no wiggle room at all. But it's for me, one thing, structure can be really nice. I definitely have ADHD, and so like needing to stay within something is helpful for me. But I also think that baking kind of gets a bad rap in that way. People are like, oh, you can't mess up at all. But like, there is like little bits of wiggle room. Like, you can add different flavors if you want, or if you figure, like, for example, I really like to make scones, and it's like, you can just have the same base and then throw in whatever different fruits you want. It's like, there are ways that you can incorporate your own style and vibe into cooking, that it doesn't have to be so meticulous. And there are certain recipes where it's like they require you to be more meticulous than others. It's like, you really, like a souffle, like you can't like cut corners with something like a souffle. But like these chocolate chip cookies are not going to be messed up because I didn't weigh out the flour.
Sure. So it's not as rigid as we all might think. I'll share that in my courtship with my now wife, kind of what sealed the deal for me was a well-placed jazz and cooking quip she made, because we had just started dating, and I texted her and I asked her what she was doing at that moment, to which she replied, "I'm riffing on a soup." And I said, "Oh, like jazz." And she just wrote, "Dig man."
See, that's all you got to do sometimes. It's like when my parents met, my mom brought him dinner for the first time. And then when he went to her apartment, he saw that she had Downbeat magazine. And he was like, "Who is this white lady in Illinois with Downbeat magazine?" And the rest is history. Yeah.
So let's look at some of the science that's in play with the bake. So what are you doing first here? I see you mixing dry ingredients.
Yeah, so I got all my dry ingredients together, which is flour, salt, baking powder, baking soda, and whisked those up.
Okay.
Now I'm moving on to the sugars, where they will get creamed. So mixing the light brown sugar and the regular cane sugar and the butter, which is important in life in general. Butter, I think, is man's, and by man I mean human beings' best creation.
Butter.
Doesn't, it was not found in nature. We had to make it.
Yeah.
I've said that often, and I had one person come back with hot shower. And I was like, that's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one. But I still say butter for the win.
I don't think I could do without either of those. Let's talk about two things here. So you're creaming the sugar, the butter, and the eggs together?
Well, no, it's first you do the butter and the sugars together.
Okay. The sugar and butter interaction serves to keep the cookies from getting too dense. So table sugar itself exists in a highly organized crystalline structure. And so those crystal molecules, they have sharp edges, and those cut into the butter fat, and they create tiny air pockets, which give the cookies kind of that light structure.
Well, there you go.
So earlier you had said you had whisked the dry ingredients together.
Correct.
And you use both baking soda and baking powder, which are both chemical leavening agents to help rise. My understanding is that the soda contributes more to flavor and the powder to the actual structure, to actually helping rise.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
They both have a basic pH. And so when they combine with the acid from the sugar, it helps balance the flavor of the dough.
That's interesting to think of sugar as acid when you only think of acid as something that's bitter.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to resting the dough, how long do you usually let it rest?
So I actually generally freeze them overnight. Because we're making these so early in the day, I'll be able to freeze them, and come tonight, I should be able to have a cookie if I really want one.
Okay.
But it definitely does make a difference. You know, I could be greedy and just bake these immediately, especially since it only takes about 12, 13 minutes to bake. But there is such a stark difference between when I let it rest versus when I don't, that it's not worth it to me. Like, I'm somebody who, I love food, I love good food, and I will exercise patience. If I wait an extra day, this cookie is going to be 10 times better. I don't need the cookie so bad that day. So I'll plan accordingly. I'll be like, I want a cookie. I understand that I'm not going to be able to have it today. I want it tomorrow, though. So I'm good at planning ahead in that regard.
That's an incredible attribute. And I'll tell you, I'm the father of 2 young children, and I read this one factoid about how I guess they tested a bunch of children on delayed gratification. You know, like, okay, you can have one cookie now, but if you wait 20 minutes, you can have 2 cookies.
Yeah.
I'm totally butchering whatever this study was meant to demonstrate, but the takeaway for me was that those children that were able to wait, that they actually excelled in this area, that area, or the other later in life. My kids, needless to say, always go for the one cookie now option.
Yeah, I'm not saying it necessarily transfers all over the place, but I can give myself some patience with food. Like, for example, one time my fiance made some red beans and rice.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I took one bite, I was like, I really want a biscuit with this. This would be great with a biscuit. And I know of a biscuit recipe where like I can have a biscuit in 40 minutes. And so I put that food down. I made biscuits, and 40 minutes later, I had it all together. But it was one of those things where I was like, this tastes good right now, but it'll taste better with a biscuit. So I waited.
Okay, so now you're blending the eggs with the butter and sugar.
Vanilla.
And the vanilla. So let's talk about emulsification, because that's what's happening right now. Emulsification is the process of mixing two liquids that don't normally mix, like oil and water. So in this case, you have the water from the eggs. Eggs are about 75% water. Fat.
Like us.
Yes. The fat from the butter and the water from the eggs don't want to normally combine. But if you have a molecule, an emulsifier, that's able to bridge those two, then that's what helps them combine, like in a recipe like this, or mayonnaise. And so that molecule exists in different foods, but in the egg, there's lecithin. And so that acts as a bridge molecule. So on one end of the molecule, it likes to bind with water, and then on the other, it likes to bind with a fat. And so the words that describe that respectively are hydrophilic and lipophilic. So one likes to bind with water and the other with fat, and that's what actually allows them to harmonize, if you will.
Oh, look at that. Another little music tidbit.
Okay, so we've covered emulsification, we've covered the sugar and the butter interaction. And where are we at now?
I just put the flours into the butter, sugar, egg, vanilla situation, and now we're mixing it all together.
So this is where the leavening agents that we described earlier, the baking soda and the baking powder, once they hit moisture, that's when they can start reacting and doing their thing and actually creating rise. And I think when you start mixing batter for a cake, you want to cook it pretty quickly. Is that right?
Yeah.
Because when that reaction takes place, it's giving off carbon dioxide, which is what gives the rise. And so you don't want to squander too much of that rise with something like cake, but with cookies, obviously, you don't need that level of lift. So you can let it rest. But actually, the cooler temperature slows down that reaction anyway. So you freeze them or refrigerate them, and it buys you more time.
Tastes delicious.
I believe you. Now, let's talk a little bit about mixing the batter and what happens when you are kneading the dough, mixing the dough. Okay, so the more that you mix the batter, the more gluten develops, making the cookie chewier. Okay? Gluten is in wheat flour. It's a stretchy protein network that forms when you combine the flour and water. Okay? And so there are two proteins in wheat flour. One is glutenin and the other is gliadin. And so the more that you mix the two, the more bonds form and the stronger the network gets, making the actual product chewier, right? So in your experience or wisdom passed down from the matriarchs in your family, was there ever suggestions about how much or how little to knead or mix?
Not at this stage. Like I said, it's only really been with the eggs and the creaming of the sugars. But you just taught me something new about the fact that this is when gluten is formed, and also that the more I mix it, the chewier it will be. So this is brand new information.
It's when you combine the flour with water that you start to build that network. So now there's some chocolate chips happening.
Some chocolate chips happening. I am a fan of having multiple types of chip. So this is an extra dark chip, which sometimes they have like the baking chips that are a little bigger. But I like having dark chocolate as well as semi-sweet because I feel like the cookie batter itself, minus the chocolate chips, is relatively sweet.
Sure.
And I like to have that bit of bitterness. I'm a dark chocolate fan. And, I think having that bitterness to counteract. I also, after I bake them, I put a little bit of flaky sea salt on top. That's how I roll personally. Is I not like that? But I like having two different types of chips. I think it helps make for a better cookie, a more interesting cookie. These ones are actually mini chocolate chips, so there will be a lot of
fun.
chocolate throughout.
I wish I were sophisticated enough to say that I like dark chocolate. I just tend to have the palate of a 3-year-old.
Oh no, I love dark chocolate. I used to like milk chocolate. Now I can't eat it.
Turns your stomach?
No, it's not even that it turns my stomach. I just don't like the taste of it as much. Like it's too sweet. Like I definitely have a sweet tooth without a doubt, but it can't be like overly sweet. Otherwise, I'm not really into it.
Okay.
And I think another fun thing about chocolate chip cookies, is you that's a place where you can have some freedom. Like I never measure my chocolate chips. I just put them in because I don't think there's a point in measuring them. It's like I can see if there's enough or if there's who's ever like, oh, there's too much chocolate in my chocolate chip cookie. Nobody ever really says that. And if anything, it makes for, the type of chocolate chip cookie where there's really chocolate just like oozing out of it. So I always take liberties and kind of just go with what I have.
Well, so the chocolate actually contributes to more than flavor. So it creates little pockets of melted fat and sugar that change how heat moves through the dough actually during the bake. And so they actually, just because of the thermal mass of the entire thing, they slow the bake slightly around each chip.
Oh, interesting.
So
Very
it
cool.
probably creates a dynamic experience for the mouth.
I almost want to put some more. I have enough where it's like I could put them all in and it would be very chocolatey, or I could leave them out.
Listen, I'm going to argue that it could be too chocolatey. You want that. For me,
you do.
For my money, I want a little bit of contrast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It can't be all chocolate.
Yeah, I want a little bit of sugar cookie in my chocolate chip cookie. So there's one more set of fun facts that I want to share.
Please do.
And that's the Maillard reaction. This is when you're actually cooking the dough. But simply put, it's what gives cooked food complex flavor, color, and aroma. Cookies are able to get sort of that golden brown color, and when they're able to actually emit aroma, and they get that kind of complex, nutty flavor, this is attributed to this thing called the Maillard reaction. So Maillard was a French chemist who discovered these qualities. They result from combining sugar, protein, and heat. So when you combine all those three things, it causes the molecules in the recipe to break apart and form hundreds of new compounds. And it's distinct from caramelization, which is just sugar and heat. You would be able to identify in like a creme brulee or something like that.
Very cool. So much science behind all of this stuff, which I think is really cool. I never am thinking about it when I'm making it, but I think that humans kind of instinctively understand the science behind certain things.
Sure.
I remember watching some documentary one time, and the interviewer very ignorantly, he was interviewing some indigenous folks who, I forget exactly what they were making, but part of the process was that they had to put it in their mouth and chew it and then spit it back out. And it was because the chewing and saliva like activated something.
Okay.
The fermentation process, I think. But it was a very indigenous, like centuries old situation that they were doing. And the interviewer pretty ignorantly said something to the lines of like, they couldn't understand that this is what they were doing. But it's like, clearly they did, because they kept doing it. They kept doing it. They understood that was a necessary part of the process.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Maybe they didn't know like, oh, this breaks down this exact molecule. But I think, humans have been here for, however 100,000 years, whatnot. I think we know some things.
Exactly. And I think there's rarely a line that separates wisdom from science. accumulated wisdom.
I would agree with that. I actually listened to a podcast not too long ago about, this idea of spirituality and other energy forces that are around us, and how science actually further proves those things and is like one with them, instead of, we're kind of in this place right now in society where some folks, and I mean, I guess this has been the case as long as science has been around, where there's always a cohort of people that are like, this is not real, it's only God or whatever. And it's like, actually, these two things go hand in hand. The one does not discount or negate the other,
I agree.
Which I
and
find
I
interesting.
think it's far less binary, and it's an exciting time to be alive, because I think there's like commonalities between, it's not just about kind of being, typically someone who identifies as a physicalist or materialist, and then someone who thinks that there is actually an immaterial realm, a spiritual realm. And I think that there's more and more that people from both sides are beginning to see overlap.
Yes, totally.
In their respective viewpoints on reality, which is, it's a really exciting thing to see. I just listened to an audiobook about consciousness. And basically the idea is, it was asking whether or not consciousness is fundamental, meaning like, is consciousness a fundamental property of all physical matter? So down to the electron, and I guess even beneath that too. It's a fascinating thing, and they make kind of a compelling argument for why that's probably how it is.
Well, I think that chocolate chip cookies are fundamental. So,
Yes. That's a tie-in. I appreciate that. Well, I can't thank you enough, Madison.
Oh, no problem.
I'm jealous that I can't get to eat those with you.
Listen, this is my breakfast right now.
Okay, good for you. Be sure to check out Madison's latest album, Scorpio, and catch her on tour this fall. For more information, please visit her website, MadisonMcFerrin.com. Sing for Science is co-produced by Talkhouse and made possible in part by a grant from the Simons Foundation. Our music is by Panoram, social media manager and video editor is Bailey Constas, and our digital producer is Keenan Cush. If you like Sing for Science, the best way you can support us is to give us a review, tell a friend about the show, and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. For more information, please visit singforscience.org and follow us on social media @SingForScience. Thanks for listening.